I'm Chrissy with firstdayofhome.com, and today we are talking about the invisible stitch. Why would you want to use an invisible stitch? Well, the other option for beginner sewers is to do a top stitch when you're trying to close a project such as a pillow, which we have here. So I could just go around with a stitch on top of the fabric all the way around to close this little gap that we have here, which I will show you. I have a little 2-inch gap or so right here where I've filled the pillow with polyfill. So I could top stitch, but I like the invisible stitch because it's such an elegant way to close a project. You won't be able to see the stitching and it looks as if you were able to sew all the way around the pillow. So to begin my invisible stitch, I'm going to take my thread, which I've already put on my needle here and made a double knot or a single knot at the end. So I'm going to take this and begin my invisible stitch. Now what I did before I filled the pillow with the polyfill is I ironed it. Once I had finished sewing around all of the edges, leaving my 2-inch opening, I went ahead and pressed the pillow so that it gave me a nice crease on both of these sides right here to help guide me as I do my invisible stitch. So I'm going to start as close to the existing stitching as possible, and I'm going to feed my needle under this little flap here of fabric and get it as close as I can to the existing stitching. And just feed it to come out through the crease right there. And then I'm going to come across to the other side where I see my crease. And on the opposite side, I'm going to put one edge of the needle into the crease and then come out on the same side through the crease. So I'm kind of sewing down the crease side. Okay, and as you start going here, you'll start to see that it starts to look like a ladder. Let me show you a few more stitches so you can really see what I mean. You may also want to pull the edges a bit if you're having trouble finding your crease, and that helps you really find that nice line on either side. Once you have a few lines or rungs on the ladder, as I like to call them, you'll see them right there. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. There you go. Once you see all of those lines, you can gently pull the fabric, or the string rather, and you'll start to really see the benefit of the invisible stitch. Your stitches will now be hidden and it looks as if you used a sewing machine to close this stitch. And the more you can go across in a straight line as you're thinking of steps on a ladder, the better, because it'll come out a more even invisible stitch. So I'm doing my best here. It's a little challenging to try to talk and sew at the same time, but you'll start to get the point that you want to go directly across on each side and close this gap with an invisible stitch. Now that I've closed my gap, I'm going to make one last stitch just as before, going through the fabric, but this time as I close the stitch, and I want to make sure all my other ladder rungs are closed, I'm going to make a knot as I go through before I pull the thread all the way. And I'll do this just a few more times to really secure the stitching. I'm just going to go right back through that knot again, and as I close it, I'm going to make another knot. You can do this as many times as you like. I feel like that's pretty secure. And now to really hide the end of the string, the end of the thread, excuse me, I'm going to go back through and come out. In this case, I'm going to try to come out the blue side here, and I'm just going to pull my needle through the edge there, through the fabric, and snip it as close to the fabric as I can without cutting my fabric. As you can see, our pillow is all done. You can hardly tell where the invisible seam begins and the sewing machine ended. And our pillow is now ready to go to a little boy who's about to lose his first tooth. I hope you enjoyed watching, and please join me next time. You can get all of the alerts for my new videos by subscribing below. So please hit the button to subscribe. Thanks.